Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate y'all spending a little time with me. I hope everybody is staying healthy and getting wealthy. Today we're talking about gold, silver, and Greenland. Please like and subscribe so we can get this information out to as many people as possible. I'll start this one off with a question. What is the difference between millionaires and the common person? Number one, obviously, the millions. Number two is the information. And number three is the willingness to act on that information. Now, because they are millionaires and, of course, the billionaires, they get access to the information faster than we do. But once that information becomes public, it's up to us to consume it and act on it. Recently, something happened with the world banking system. Not the U.S. banking system, the world banking system. Gold got an asset reclassification to Tier 1. Let's get into it.
You know, some of the biggest changes in the financial world, they don't get the big headlines. They happen quietly, hidden away in these super dense regulatory papers. Well, today, we are pulling one of those quiet changes out into the light. A new banking rule that is totally rewriting the rulebook for gold for the first time in more than 50 years.
Flashback. In recent weeks, the speculators have been waging an all-out war on the American dollar. The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
2,000 years later.
To boil it all down, there's a new rule in play, and it completely changes how banks have to account for gold. And it changed this big. Well, it hasn't happened since Richard Nixon was president.
Please don't forget to vote. I'm not a crook.
We're talking a long, long time.
And I really want to be clear on this point. This is not some prediction. It's not somebody's hot take on Twitter. This is a hard and fast change to the official rulebook. And for a bank, the rulebook isn't a list of suggestions, it's the law. They have no choice but to follow it.
Now, to really get why this matters so much, you have to ask, who's writing these rules? I mean, who has the power to do this? And the answer is an organization that is so powerful, yet most people have never ever heard of it.
Say hello to the Bank for International Settlements.
Who is that?
Or the BIS. The easiest way to think about them is like they're the central bank for all the other central banks. They're the quiet referee of global finance. And when the referee changes the rules of the game, every single major bank on the planet has to play by those new rules. Right after the 2008 crisis showed everyone just how shaky the system was, the BIS started the long process of rebuilding the financial rulebook. And right now, we are in that final chapter, the end game as they call it. It all comes down to how gold is now officially classified on a bank's balance sheet. So the old way, the way it's been for decades, gold was considered a Tier 3 asset. What does that mean? Well, basically the regulators saw it as risky, kind of like a speculative stock. If a bank wanted to hold gold, they had to set aside a bunch of their own money, their own capital, just to balance out that perceived risk. It made holding gold really inefficient. But now, under the new Basel III rules, physical gold just got a massive upgrade. It's now a Tier 1 asset. This is the safest, most pristine category there is. We're talking right up there with actual cash. So holding real, physical gold doesn't just sit on the books anymore. It actually makes the bank financially stronger in the eyes of the regulators.
Now on this slide, they were a little bit overzealous in highlighting silver because it is still considered a Tier 3. But silver is a major component within our electrical infrastructure and will be in the future, especially with all these data centers getting built. But I'll explain that a little bit later.
Just so we're all on the same page about what Tier 1 means, it's the absolute bedrock of a bank's health. It's the money that proves a bank can take a punch and not go down. So for gold to be reclassified into this top-tier category, that is a seismic shift. No other way to put it. But, and this is the most important part, there's a huge catch. This new fancy Tier 1 status, it only applies to actual physical gold. You know, the kind you can touch, the kind that's sitting in a vault, fully owned and audited. All of that other stuff, the paper promises, the derivatives, the unallocated accounts that make up most of the market, nope, they don't count. And that one little distinction between a real bar of gold and a paper promise of one changes everything. It completely flips the script for banks and sets a brand new, powerful game in motion.
And that game is called Buy Gold Now. No, don't go to the jewelry store and buy no damn chain.
What you doing, sucker?
You look up the companies that mine for gold and silver, because those are the companies that have to have the physical gold to sell to these banks. And that's where we make our profit.
Banks don't operate on feelings. They're not going to suddenly decide they love gold. No, they are machines built to do one thing: optimize their balance sheets based on the rules. And now that the rules have changed, their behavior has to change right along with it. It's just cold, hard math.
So if the math for paper gold is broken and physical gold is now the star player, what do you think happens when every one of these massive banks tries to make the same shift at the same time?
That right there is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've got this new tidal wave of demand coming, and it's not speculative demand, it's demand driven by rules, by compliance. And that demand is on a collision course with a physical gold market that has always been, and still is, incredibly tight.
Yeah, let's just get a reality check on the gold supply. You hear these huge numbers about how much gold is mined every year, and it sounds like there's plenty to go around. But the truth is, almost all of that is already spoken for. It's going to industry, it's tied up in contracts. The actual amount available on the open market for a big buyer to just go and get, it's a tiny, tiny sliver of the whole pot.
Ah! It's not a liquid!
And here's the kicker. This new demand from the banks is inelastic. That's a fancy way of saying they don't care about the price. They're not shopping for a bargain. They are on a deadline set by the regulators. They have to comply. They are forced buyers, and that changes the entire dynamic of a market.
So what do you think happens when thousands, maybe millions of people get that call and decide, you know what, I want the real thing? Well, that kicks off a whole second wave of demand for physical metal as regular people rush to turn their paper promises into a real asset. And that just adds even more fuel to the fire. So let's end on this thought. This isn't about predicting the price of gold tomorrow or next week. This is about understanding that the very plumbing of the financial system is being reconfigured right before our eyes.
It's time to buy. And now with the help of the internet and AI, it is so easy to do the research on these companies. We're just going to do a quick little Gemini search. What are the companies that mine for gold and silver? Boom. Newmont Corporation, Barrick Gold, Agnico Eagle Mines, Silver, Fresnillo PCC, Pan American Silver, Hecla Mining, First Majestic Silver. Now, if you recall from the slide earlier that had silver highlighted as a tier 1 asset, it is not. It is still tier 3, which means the banks can still do that paper promise thing. But the actual physical silver, it is used in a lot of our tech infrastructure. Let me show you something. While we often think of silver as just a metal for second place or a shiny jewelry, its unique physical properties make it an absolute powerhouse in the world of technology. They're in solar panels, electronics and semiconductors, automotive technology, medical and biotech, aerospace and bearings. And there's the real thing right there. We use copper for most wiring because it is much cheaper, but for high, precise tech, where every millivolt matters, silver is the way to go. And here's some bonus information.
Taking a look at Elon Musk's SpaceX, looking to put data centers among the stars as the company prepares one of the largest IPO offerings in history. Fox Business's Madison Allworth now with all the details. Madison.
Good morning, Maria. So they're eyeing a mid to late 2026 public offering, and this could be one of the largest initial public offerings in history, as you mentioned. Investment banks are scheduled to make their pitches this week in what's known as a bake-off, as Musk's space company is eyeing an IPO that could value the company at up to $1.5 trillion. And while Musk has long mused about colonizing the moon, the funds raised in this IPO would help him with a more immediate goal: space-based data centers.
The cost effectiveness of AI in space will be overwhelmingly better than AI on the ground. So far, long before you exhaust potential energy sources on Earth, long before, meaning like I think even perhaps in the 4 or 5 year time frame, the lowest cost way to do AI compute will be with solar powered AI satellites.
Okay, so data centers in 4 or 5 years, we already have our first mini data center in space. StarCloud launched the first NVIDIA H100, a powerful AI processor, into space in November, with plans to scale up significantly in the coming years.
Within 10 years, most new data centers will be being built in space. Now, it's going to take some time to replace the stock, but the reason for that is we're very quickly running up against energy constraints on Earth. So, for example, to build a new 100-megawatt data center on Earth, you're looking at 5 to 10 year long lead times on just permitting for that type of energy project on Earth.
Flashback. The previous administration added over 16,000 pages of heavy-handed regulations to the Federal Register. That's why nothing got done.
In space, we can launch hundreds of megawatts within weeks and months rather than years and decades.
So obviously, as the CEO, quite bullish on data centers in space. But one of the big challenges is being able to adequately cool these pieces, because despite space being very cold, it's also a vacuum and then might not properly absorb the heat from the data center. But deployable radiators are being designed to address this. We're learning as we go. Musk is betting big. And StarCloud's space data center that I told you about, it was launched into orbit by a SpaceX rocket. Maria?
Wow, that is cool stuff, Madison. Thanks so much.
So why does this mean so much to me? Because I just got done supervising a 4-megawatt project. And on this 4-megawatt project, they had 6,960 solar panels. Each solar panel can contain up to 20 grams of silver. They talking about doing 100-megawatt systems. And I'm sure there's going to be multiple data centers that they want to put up in space. Do the math. Because silver might actually turn out to be more profitable than gold in the long run. Now let's get into Greenland. Why do we want it, and how can we make some money off of it?
And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally it's not defensible that way, totally. And number two, psychologically, who the hell wants to defend a license agreement or a lease, which is a large piece of ice in the middle of the ocean where if there is a war, much of the action will take place on that piece of ice. Think of it. Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built.
This one is simple. We want Greenland strictly because it will help us defend our northern hemisphere from Russia. Check out the map. Here you see the routes of our nuclear submarines and also our adversaries' nuclear submarines. And here shows all the known military bases up there, ours and our adversaries. Why does Russia have so many military bases up there on this ice? Now, they do have rare earths up there in Greenland, but this is strictly about defense. So once again, we're using that Gemini. We're going to look up defense contractors. But first, let's check the money. As of January 2026, the United States defense budget for fiscal year 2026 is reaching historic levels, surpassing the $1 trillion mark in national defense spending requests. $1 trillion. So of course, what's next to do? Look up the companies that receive these contracts. I'll give you a freebie. It's right there. Raytheon. Buy. And think about this. All those components that they're making for these are going to have silver in them too.
Excellent.
Honestly, after looking at this map, I think the only reason we acquired Alaska is so that Russia just won't walk into Canada, slap them around, and,
Oh, wow!
and then walk into our northern border. And I'm going to end this right here. You got the information. Tax refund season is on the way. You're about to have the cash. Fellas, don't waste it all on clothes and cars and buying bottles. Ladies, don't waste it all on vacations and eyelashes. Invest in yourself. Till next time, family.